Live from KMOV, News 4 is covering breaking news.
Yes, he didn't even do nothing wrong. But walk down the street.
We continue following a very hostile breaking news situation. There is outrage tonight from those reacting to a Ferguson police officer shooting and killing an 18-year-old. The community is flooding the streets of North County demanding answers. News 4 has team coverage with 2 crews following the developments. We begin with News 4's Brittany Noble, who's live at West Florissant in Canfield, where the teenager was killed. What kind of reaction have you seen tonight, Brittany?
Well, Chris, the situation here continues to change. As day became night, more and more people became frustrated with police about what happened to an 18-year-old boy named Mike from Normandy. Now, there were hundreds of people standing in this area earlier today. I was here too. Police eventually cleared the scene. My photographer and I turned down Canfield. It's right there in that intersection, hoping to talk with more people. We quickly left because there was a dumpster fire. Now, since then, we've seen multiple police cars going in and out of that neighborhood that we were just in. County Councilwoman Hazel Irby was also there and shot by the scene. Be honest, how bad is it right now?
I think it's very bad. There's a large crowd over there. And I think that you see the police are going back and forth over there continuously. So it's not going to die down soon. Something has to be done. We need the investigation, a quick investigation.
There are lots of county police cars here, but it is the job of Ferguson to control the crowds in the neighborhoods. So I did speak with the chief of Ferguson, the police chief, and you can hear what he has to say coming up about how he plans to calm everybody down. But first, the details of the shooting are still very unclear, but the situation has many people from Ferguson, from the Ferguson neighborhood, beyond angry. News 4 Corey Stark has been talking with people and witnesses who saw it all happen. He's live from the St. Louis County Police headquarters. Corey?
Yeah, Brittany, well, as you showed us, this shooting, this situation has sent a shockwave through an entire community. Now, earlier, Ferguson police did confirm that one of their officers did shoot and kill the teenager, as you mentioned, named Mike. Now, the big question, of course, is why. The St. Louis County Police Department is the one handling that part of the investigation. Meanwhile, dozens of people who saw this shooting happen, they say this officer acted unjustly.
We wasn't causing any harm to nobody. We had no weapons on us at all.
Dorian Johnson says he was walking home from a convenience store with his friend Mike Brown. They were walking on the street when a Ferguson police officer from his vehicle told the boys to get out of the street. Johnson says they kept walking, causing the officer to confront the boys, first from his car, then got out of the car, firing a shot. Johnson says him and Brown were scared and ran away from the officer.
He shot again, and once my friend felt that shot, he turned around and he put his hands in the air, and he started to get down, but the officer still approached with his weapon drawn, and he fired several more shots.
No justice, no peace.
Instantly, hundreds gathered, angered and saddened by what they call a complete overreaction by the officer. Now a family is demanding answers.
You took my son away from me. You know how hard it was for me to get him to stay in school and graduate? You know how many black men graduate? Not many. Because you bring them down to this type of level where they feel like I don't got nothing to live for anyway. They're going to try to take me out anyway.
The crowd became more angered, even someone firing shots. No one was hurt. Meanwhile, Brown's body laid in the street for hours.
The shots that were being fired were very close to that scene, so we needed to make sure that the crime scene was safe. That's why we called for the additional officers so that we could safely, without conflict, move everyone back far enough.
Ferguson Police Chief Tom Jackson says the St. Louis County Police Department is handling the investigation into the officer shooting and says as standard procedure, the officer has been put on paid administrative leave.
We do want this investigated fully, and that's why we asked for the outside help to do that.
And as you saw in that video, this all happened in the middle of a very busy apartment complex with a lot of witnesses. We understand that police do have cell phone videos from several witnesses that could be a part of this investigation, once again being handled by the St. Louis County Police Department. We'll continue to monitor this situation throughout the night, have the very latest on News 4 this morning and, of course, later on in this show. Chris, we'll send it back to you.
And the NAACP of St. Louis County says they're launching an independent investigation into this shooting, and they're asking the FBI to step in and help. Esther Haywood sat down with us this evening to express her concerns about what happened today. She tells us the young man may have stolen cigarettes from a nearby convenience store, and he was unarmed when he was shot.
When he ran, they shot him. And then, when he went down, evidently, it was said that he went for his telephone, trying to get his cell phone. And that's when he was shot 9 times. It's a frightening thing to think about what might be happening behind this.
We want to make this very clear. Police investigators haven't told us yet why the officer fired on the 18-year-old or how many times he was shot or if he was armed. Haywood insists the NAACP will do everything in their power to get the details related to this shooting from Ferguson Police and St. Louis County Police. Now, to wrap it all up, here's what we know. Around noon today, a Ferguson police officer shot and killed an 18-year-old on West Florissant Avenue. The incident brought large crowds to the area, prompting a heavy police presence with 15 departments to control the scene. The St. Louis County Police Department is now in charge of the shooting investigation. We'll continue our team coverage throughout this show, and we'll bring you any developments on air and online as we get them. And remember, you can find all the details of this investigation anytime on our KMOV mobile app. Moving on, new at 10 tonight, St. Louis City Police have arrested 2 teenagers now charged for robbery. The crime happened downtown and the victim ran to Ballpark Village for help. We have the details on the arrests. But first, police swarm St. Anthony's Hospital after an armed masked man busts in demanding drugs. And police are still looking for that suspect.
You're watching News 4, watching out for you. You're watching News 4, watching out for you.
A manhunt is underway tonight in St. Louis County as police search for a man who walked into a hospital treatment center masked and armed with a gun demanding drugs. We first brought you this as breaking news from St. Anthony's Medical Center on News 4 this morning. The St. Louis County Police SWAT team locked down and searched the hospital and surrounding buildings for hours looking for the gunman who tried to rob a nurse. News 4's Russell Kinsaw talked to police and to people who were kept from seeing loved ones in the hospital because of this lockdown.
We're concerned that the nursing staff may be at harm and concerned that if the masked gunman would hurt any of the patients there.
Relatives of patients nervously watched as police searched for a dangerous man on hospital grounds.
An armed intruder, armed with a handgun. He was also wearing a ski mask.
Police say somehow he got into the locked hospice center around 6:30 and demanded drugs from a nurse. The nurse got away, and police believe the gunman probably fled.
We don't know if he's left, but we know that there's people in that could potentially, again, in this instance, they weren't, but could have been hostages.
So St. Louis County Police called in their tactical team and began a methodical search of all the buildings while the entire complex went on lockdown.
It's depressing. I mean, it's frustrating. It's frustrating.
Meanwhile, friends and relatives of patients were kept across the street waiting for hours.
As long as I can get in and see my wife, that's all I'm interested in.
Eventually.
Eventually, yes.
Some were frantic to be with loved ones. One woman pleaded with security to see her husband, who had been brought by ambulance with a life-threatening emergency 2 hours earlier. Nearly 6 hours after it all began, the all clear was given. No suspect was found.
At no time were any of our patients at risk. The hospital is currently back on its normal operations at this time.
Police are checking surveillance video to get a better description of the suspect. Russell Kinsaw, News 4.
You're watching News 4, watching out for you.
News 4 continuing to stay on top of that breaking news in Ferguson, where 15 police agencies have responded to control the crowds after a teenager was shot and killed by a police officer. Now the community is up in arms. News 4's Brittany Noble live in Ferguson tonight. Now, Brittany, you've spoken exclusively to Ferguson Police Chief Tom Jackson.
I did, Chris. So many people in Ferguson are upset this morning. They want answers about what happened to an 18-year-old boy. I've seen large crowds of people yelling. I've even seen a dumpster fire. So I want to know from the chief what his plans were to control the crowds, because there are dozens of county police cars here, but county police tell me they're in charge of the shooting investigation. It's the department's responsibility. Ferguson, it's their responsibility to control the crowd. So Chief Tom Jackson said he's been reaching out to community activists and local hip-hop stations for help, but I wanted him to address News 4. It's your department's job to maintain the peace in this area. What are your plans?
Well, we need the public's help on this. We need the public, the community to calm down and take a step back and allow this investigation to proceed. There's not going to be any answers today. There's not going to be any answers tomorrow. But we are going to conduct a very professional, thorough investigation, and we are going to come up with a conclusion that we're going to present, and we hope that that people will allow us to do that.
Soon after my interview, the chief told me that he's going to hold a news conference tomorrow at 10 a.m. at the Ferguson Police Department. It's a story that continues to develop. I'll have much more on this tomorrow morning on News 4 This Morning, beginning at 6 a.m. Live in Ferguson, Brittany Noble, News 4.
Live from KMOV, News 4 is covering breaking news.
Welcome back. Police from all over the metro have descended on one Ferguson neighborhood tonight after a teenager was shot and killed by a police officer earlier today. News 4 was first on the scene, and our team coverage continues right now. Brittany Noble is live from where 18-year-old Michael Brown was shot and killed this afternoon. Brittany, what have you been seeing?
Well, Chris, I just spoke with county investigators. Unfortunately, they are staying very tight-lipped. They're not releasing any new details tonight. But as I think about how the day progressed, I saw lots of tears, lots of prayers, but I also saw hundreds of people angry and even a dumpster fire. Now, there is still a large police presence here in Ferguson. Even right now, people are driving down West Florissant screaming profanity at police. Ferguson police tell me they are reaching out to community activists and local hip-hop stations for help in controlling the crowds. Police also tell me tonight they're going to be holding a news conference tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. News 4 is going to be there, and we will continue to follow this story on air and online at KMOV.com. I will be back tomorrow morning on News 4 This Morning beginning at 6 a.m. and I will hope to stay on top of this story. Live in Ferguson, Brittany Noble, News 4.
All right, Brittany, now this has been an incredibly emotional situation. News 4's Corey Stark is live from St. Louis County Police Headquarters, because St. Louis County Police are now in charge of this investigation, right, Corey?
Yeah, Chris, that is right, and we are learning, more information from police as this all unfolded throughout the day. And Ferguson Police Chief Tom Jackson earlier did confirm that one of his officers was involved with the shooting that killed teenager Mike Brown. Now, what led to this officer shooting, that's being investigated by the St. Louis County Police Department, as you just alluded to, and that is normal protocol in any type of officer-involved shooting situation. Now, it's been and continues, I should say, a very emotional situation for Brown's family and the dozens of people who witnessed this shooting. Countless witnesses tell me 18-year-old Brown was shot for no reason and was not armed, and that this is a complete overreaction by the officer. Throughout the day in Ferguson, there has been a very heavy police presence to try and control the crowd. I'm told more than 100 officers from 15 different departments responded. Mike Brown's family is demanding justice.
You took my son away from me. You know how hard it was for me to get him to stay in school and graduate? You know how many black men graduate? Not many. Because you bring them down to this type of level where they feel like I don't got nothing to live for anyway. They're going to try to take me out anyway.
Officer involved in this shooting, I'm told, has been put on paid administrative leave, which again is a normal procedure in these types of situations. So far, we have not heard from St. Louis County Police about their investigation, but as Brittany alluded to, there will be a 10 a.m. press conference that we will be at and we will cover. We're going to continue to follow this situation, have the very latest on KMOV.com and on News 4 This Morning. Chris, we'll send it back to you.
Okay, Corey, the NAACP of St. Louis County says they're launching an independent investigation into this shooting as well. And they're asking for the FBI to step in and help. Esther Haywood sat down with us this evening to express her concerns about what happened today. She tells us the young man may have stolen cigarettes from a nearby convenience store and that he was unarmed when he was shot.
When he ran, they shot him. And then when he went down, evidently it was said that he went for his telephone, trying to get his cell phone. And that's when he was shot 9 times. It's a frightening thing to think about what might be happening behind this.
Now, police investigators have not told us why the officer fired on the 18-year-old or how many times he was shot or if that teenager was armed. Haywood insists, though, that the NAACP will do everything in their power to get the details related to the shooting from Ferguson Police and St. Louis County Police. Now, to wrap this all up, here's what we know. At noon today, a Ferguson police officer shot and killed an 18-year-old on West Florissant Avenue. The incident brought large crowds to the area, prompting a heavy police presence with 15 departments to control the scene. The St. Louis County Police Department is in charge of the shooting investigation. We'll continue our team coverage throughout this show and bring you any developments on air and online as we get them. And remember, you can always find out the details of this investigation on our KMOV mobile app. We will continue to stay on top of the response and reaction to today's shooting in Ferguson and work to learn more about the circumstances of why the 18-year-old was killed by a police officer. We'll provide updates on air and online. Thanks for watching tonight. I'm Chris Stanford. We'll see you tomorrow.